shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So I am briefly going to talk about a film that I consider to be quite possibly Francis Ford Coppola's best film. That's just my opinion. It's the one I've watched the most. And although usually, even if a film is one that you really watch the most, it doesn't necessarily make it the best one. But from this director, who has done some spectacular films, particularly during the 70s and some in the 80s, The Conversation, to me, this is an amazing picture. This is the one I watch quite often. I used to watch it repeatedly back in the day. It is so absorbing a story. It's just an amazing picture. And of course, this is also apropos because it starred Gene Hackman, and who we recently lost, as I'm sure most of you know, not too long ago. So Gene Hackman plays this guy named Harry Call. He is a surveillance expert. He has his own independent surveillance business. And right at the beginning of the picture, which is set in Union Square in San Francisco, there's a telephoto lens shot way above the Union Square. And you're looking at it as if it was a diagram of where everything should be. It's a huge crowd of people, and you don't know who you're supposed to be zeroing on. And there's a mime, and there are a lot of people sitting on benches. There's a musical act that's taking place as well. But it turns out there's this couple, played by Cindy Williams and Frederick Forrest, who both have also passed away a while ago, sorry to say. Seems that a lot of the people I grew up watching are passing away. It's really something. And Gene Hackman is amongst the crowd, and he's following them, and another person, one of his cohorts, is carrying a paper bag, which seems a little too obvious, and he's got, an earplug, so on. So, anyway, this is a job, and they're surveilling this couple. They don't know who this couple is, or they don't know anything about them. They're supposed to record what it is they are saying. It's for a job for someone named the director that works at some government agency, and that's all we really know. And the film avoids really dealing with very specific details about this couple. I mean, we don't really know exactly what's going on. We don't really learn anything about them. And I'm not going to give away what it is that it turns out is going on, except that quite possibly it might eventually lead to a murder. But we don't know who's getting murdered, or why, or what the heck is going on at all. But the point of the film is that Harry Call listens to these tapes, the reels, because he's trying to combine all of them together. And there's one particular exchange from this couple that is unclear. He can't quite figure out what's being said. And eventually he zeroes in on it using some sort of adapter to clear out some of the ambient noise of the crowd and the music act. And he finally zeroes in on it. And Francis Ford Coppola does an amazing job here. It's kind of like, which was meant to be sort of a version of Blow Up by Michelangelo Antonioni, which is also a very remarkable film. Probably more absorbing than this picture, but these two would be an amazing double bill, I think, to see these two together. And he's trying to figure out the sound recording, but what he also does, Coppola, is he's able to show the clips. So when he's listening to the audio recording, we're also being shown the clip of them on the Union Square. And so we're able to relate to that visually, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it really is quite absorbing. It really pulls you in, because you're trying to figure out what this is all about. And as you're doing that, you discover that Harry Call, who has a job that feels virtually anonymous, he is also virtually an anonymous man to a certain degree. He just looks like anybody else, which is really amazing because Gene Hackman has such energy, usually plays such boisterous characters who really stand out, who let their emotions unravel. They if he gets angry, sad, any sort of emotions, Gene Hackman just brings it out. And here's a character who is not like that. He keeps his emotions to himself. He is virtually an emotionless man to a certain extent, very insular, and but he is taken by this, and a job which requires you to not have any interest whatsoever in what it is that's being said in these audio recordings, all this surveillance equipment and everything else. He starts to develop a conscience, and he starts to realize that this may be dangerous work, but he's not supposed to really care about any of that, but he does. And it's also figures in the song that Cindy Williams sings briefly, and there's something about it that just holds his attention. He cannot let it go. He had been involved in the past, the character, Harry, in a surveillance situation where 3 people ended up getting killed because of this particular recording, whatever it was that he had done in the past. And that's alluded to later in the picture. So, Harry Cole's own life is fairly lonely. I mean, this is really, to me, the film also functions as one of the saddest portraits of loneliness I've ever seen, along with Taxi Driver. It has that. You're so, at first you don't know what to feel for Harry Cole, or if you feel anything. But slowly, through nuance and shades that Gene Hackman develops, and through the screenplay also by Coppola, it becomes quite intricate. You start to really put the pieces together, and you can see that this guy, he is human after all. He can't let go of this, and he's also a Catholic, and he doesn't like to take the Lord's name in vain. And he chastises Stan, played by the late John Cazale, who uses the Lord's name in vain. So that's what the film does. It serves as a portrait of this character, portrait of loneliness. And even though he, has this girlfriend played by Terry Garr who lives in a separate apartment that he pays for, and Harry has his own apartment, but it's fairly banal, to say the least. There's nothing there. He has a phone, but the only thing that he really does is play the saxophone. Other than that, this guy doesn't do much for entertainment, it seems. He's very devoted to his job. And Coppola just does a fascinating job of bringing this all together. So as a character portrait, and also the suspense of this thriller, this idea that something is about to happen between these two, this couple. And we don't know what it is that's going to happen. We don't know the circumstances. We only see it from Harry's point of view and what he imagines might be the scenario. And then we discover what's really going on, but we still don't know the full details. There's no depth in covering that, and I don't think it would have worked had there been. Today, somebody would probably, if they made this film today, they would explore this even more so in terms of the intrigue. But that's not what this film is. This film deals with that, and there's a suspense in that, and a paranoia, which was perfect for the 1970s, and probably would still be today. It's a very existential picture. I don't know if an existential film like this would work today. I mean, maybe, maybe not. It's very quietly affecting the film. It's not, the suspense it builds through nuance. It's not something that calls too much attention to itself. And it makes sense, because that's Harry Cole. He doesn't like to call attention to himself either. And so therefore, this plot, this intrigue that's going on, doesn't call too much attention to itself. Remarkable picture. Francis Ford Coppola's best film ever, I think. And I love Apocalypse Now and his Godfather movies and several other pictures. But this is one film that I'm really quite moved by in some way. But it seems almost like an inaccessible film at first. And probably today, this film would seem like the least accessible film in Coppola's filmography. But it really shouldn't be, because you start to slowly gain access to Harry Cole. You start to understand where he's coming from. And that maybe if we were in his position, we would want to know what the hell's going on with this young woman. And the guy that, she's with. Interestingly, The Conversation was nominated for Best Picture the same year that The Godfather Part 2 was nominated for Best Picture. Talk about a home run. Two major films in the same year. Coppola had a grand year that year with those two films. Godfather Part 2, of course, won Best Picture. But The Conversation should not be ignored. Do not ignore this picture. I would say that a lot what it says about society and a man's place in society where this type of thing happens, these secretive recordings and all this surveillance, should be considered prescient in today's culture with cell phones and everything else. But and we have a lot of surveillance. So I think this film probably should gain a new life. I would hope so. I don't know how many people have really seen The Conversation. I think less so than The Godfather Part 2. So we should change that a little bit. Check out The Conversation by Francis Ford Coppola. It is a great film. Rent it. If it's streaming, do what you got to do. Watch this movie. It's just an amazing picture. And one of Gene Hackman's greatest performances. So Terry Garr, Harrison Ford is also in this, in a small part. In an uncredited role, Robert Duvall. Yes. And John Cazale. I mean, it's just an amazing cast. And just as important a film as The Godfather Part 2, as far as I'm concerned. So those are my thoughts on The Conversation. Have you seen The Conversation? What do you think of it? Please lend me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Thank you to the new subscribers to my channel. I appreciate that. And hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I review movies quite often. Obviously, sometimes more older films than newer ones, but, that's going to change soon. Probably going to watch Anora pretty soon and let you let in my feelings on that one. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about The Conversation. Tell me what's your favorite Francis Ford Coppola film if it isn't The Conversation, or if it is The Conversation. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. This is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.